off.
Hey, listen, you want to talk about hating? Hating is alive and well. I have not been able to live on Twitter over the past 4 days since game 1 happened because I dared to say I do not hate Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And people looked at me and all they heard when I said I like Shai and I don't think he's the Antichrist, they looked at me and said, oh, okay, so you like Al-Qaeda. Okay, so you are a Nazi sympathizer. That's what people hear. Because Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is currently the most hated star we've seen since like prime James Harden. And even that, I feel like there was more of a contingent of people who liked Harden and defended him. Shai plays in Oklahoma, and that is obviously not a big fan base. It feels like 80% of casual.
And what else?
Feels
Canadian.
And he's Canadian. There's that. So nobody likes Oklahoma. He's Canadian. He's alienated there. It feels like 80% of the casual NBA world hates Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and thinks he has everything wrong with the NBA. And to me, as somebody who's obviously become an OKC fan by proxy of saying I think they're good and everybody yells at me because they say I should hate them. So I become a Shai fan. I love this. I love every second of this. Mm-hmm. The way that people are so fuming mad that they're the team to beat, that they're dominating everybody, that they're just going to keep winning and we think win the finals. It brings me great joy. I used to get upset when there's dumb narratives about players I like that just weren't based in reality. Even as soon as earlier this year, I've spent so much time being annoyed by how stupid narratives that take this much of a hold on the public consciousness are. They're just not true and they're illogical and all this stuff. I no longer give a fuck. My third eye has been opened. I have reached Zen. I think it's hilarious. And I love seeing this villain arc.
Thank fucking God, bro, because you would talk to us all the time about how you're constantly getting harassed in your Twitter mentions by these random ass fans.
They still harass me. And they still harass me, and they're so mean to me. It's hilarious. Yeah. It's hilarious how mean they are to me because I like Shai.
You guys are mean to me.
But I love it. It's got to the point now where I'm like, it's so stupid, and because they're winning. If they were losing, it would drive me insane. Mm-hmm. But because they're winning, I just take it in. I'm like, yeah.
I'm so happy that you said that because these SGA haters specifically,
great word.
These SGA haters specifically are the biggest losers for my list as well. Yes. Because they have the stupidest talking points, and you're right, it's just derived straight out of hate, which is emotion, and they just say the most illogical things possible. Specifically, over the course of the year, they've been talking about the free throw thing. The free throw thing is not a new conversation. It's been happening over the last 7 to 10 years or so, based off of the James Harden stuff, and so many other players have, taken a couple pages out of his book, and people see someone like Shai who's averaging 8-9 free throws a game and swear that's all his game is, and we just hear constantly the stupidest things ever.
Yes, and all of our points align well, right? So one, winner for player hating, loser for Shai haters, whatever. Mm-hmm. Another one of my winners is 2000s legacies. Mm-hmm. Because the fact that everybody is out here hating on Shai and saying oh my goodness, he's unethical hoops, all foul beta, all this stuff. This is literally a big part of Dwayne Wade's game.
Yep. He shot 10 free throws for 5 straight years.
In very similar fashion to the way Shai gets that line too.
Not even. It was more egregious. Dwayne Wade was literally pump faking, throwing his body into a majority of mid 2000 stars and people who are playing out of the mid post and mid range. A big part of their goal is if you are too close to me, I'm going to get you off the ground with the pump fake. And I'm going to throw myself into you and I'm going to get to the free throw line. Everybody knew it. Everybody accepted it. D-Wade did it. Paul Pierce did it. Kobe did it a lot. Michael Jordan did it. All of these stars throughout the entire history of the league did things that at this point, 2 years ago, the NBA got rid of. Yeah. They got rid of. That's what all the stuff that people were saying was, foul grifting. All that has been 100% in the fabric of the NBA. And now, but nobody's going to hate on D-Wade. Nobody's going to hate on Kobe. So their legacy is safe. And Shai is the one that's going to die on the cross for all of this.
Let's talk about this, though, because obviously we think it's silly, the narratives around Shai. We do not think Shai is the worst thing to happen in basketball. We don't think he's the worst to watch superstar in the world. But there's enough people that do that I can't come up here and say it's nothing. This many casual NBA fans, or not even, I shouldn't say casual, this many NBA fans, even hardcore, hate watching him play and feel as if he's given an unfair advantage to the point where even if I think it's mass psychosis and it's not based in reality, there's a reason these people think these things. So it would be unfair to say that they're pulling it out of thin air. We talked about my mentions being outrageous. Let's go through it and see some of these talking points. I made this tweet where I was talking about how Shai had a bad second half. I mean, first half, but you saw how you can't defend him one-on-one or else he'll get to the line consistently and just beat you up, right? Yeah. He fouled Jay McDaniels out of the game, who's somebody that people consider an elite defender. I just pulled this random tweet, not to single him out. He said, bro, you can't fucking touch him. Nobody will last against his whistle. I will never respect him after this. And then I replied to this with saying, why do y'all think he gets a good whistle? Because the refs just like his vibe, or because he's incredibly hard to stay in front of, which leads to fouls? And this led to an eruption of people saying I'm being naive and pretending that it's outlandish that refs give special treatment to some people. And it's just like, answer, why the fuck would the refs want somebody on the Oklahoma team to like get special treatment? Oh, and somebody's like, so you're saying Steph and Ja and all these other guys who don't get fouls are hard to guard? You really think the refs would favor an Oklahoma City player over Stephen Curry?
They really think the refs are Boomer Sooners?
Like, that is insane. Like, why would he get special treatment? Like, people really believe that.
I hate that term. Don't ever say that.
It's a hard bar.
So I guess my question is like, why we got to talk about why he has a good whistle. And what is a good whistle? Because some people really think that a good whistle is just decide on like whether the refs decide they want to give you fouls. That everything is equal, and some people have special treatment, and some people are disliked by the refs. Yeah, that's how they think it works.
And I think so. Like part of it for me, and even some of the people that I kind of look at it and like know that they are like watching games on, are, you know, really involved in it. One of the major points is like, yes, he is getting fouled. However, so is everybody else in the playoffs. And so obviously we've talked so much about how physical these playoffs have been. And so part of it, I think, is you look at other games and you look at other stars, and some people feel like other stars are, you know, playing by whatever new rules that we are playing by. And then when it comes to Shai, some of the fouls that he's getting feel like regular season calls while everybody else is getting full-time playoff whistles. Mm-hmm. And so now you have 3-4 times a game where he's getting to the line on a call that is soft or wouldn't be called on the other end.
And so that's not outlandish to think that, though I think it is lazy, because okay, so we'll use a comparison to Anthony Edwards. Mm-hmm. People compare that and they're saying, why isn't he getting to the line? He's also a great driver. You also can't stay in front of him. There are tangible skills on why Shai gets these calls and your other guys don't. Look across the league. There is no other star right now that is as good at drawing fouls as Shai. So this specific game one, there was a few questionable calls that were ticky-tacky, right, that you could say were just one of them got reversed even. So I'm not even here to tell you every foul he got was 100% in the right, whatever. Like, there's going to be bad calls in a game. I'm here to tell you that shit is not indicative of some grander picture that explains every single call he gets. The reality is, I tweeted it and explained it this way. I said, he's the best in the NBA at creating really low driving angles that are hard to slide in front of because so little of his body is open to the defender. So people have to create contact with his arms because they can't reach his chest. And he has a great feel for generating all this. That's what it is. He is simply amazing as a driver and has a very specific skill set of generating these, like I said, low driving angles that you can't beat him to a spot because he's quicker than you and has longer strides than you. So you're trying to recover as a defender and you touch him. And he is amazing at doing the Harden thing that as soon as he knows you're about to touch him, he goes into a shot motion. You can, if you want to say that's unethical hoops, whatever, it's like on purpose. It's a skill that he forces people to foul him. Like, it's so different. If Anthony Edwards had that same feel, that same skill as a driver, he would do it as well. He doesn't have the footwork. He doesn't have the technique, doesn't have the feel. Just because you're fast and hard to guard does not mean you have the specific skill sets that lead to lots of fouls.
I think Ant has the skill set. He just doesn't go to it very much that very well. I think it's a mindset thing as well. Yeah. One of the greatest cheat codes to life is find something that you're goated at. Find something that you just can spam. And once you do that, life is so much fucking easier for you, bro, in general. And this exactly applies to this goddamn game and Shai's game specifically. Like you said, all those words that you put up on your tweet make so much sense, and it's the best way to break it down. But for people who just can't really digest that, he's just elusive as fuck, bro. He's so swift, and it doesn't make any sense because his game isn't predicated on necessarily explosiveness. But he's quick and he's super decisive with those moves.
But you said
and with
Ant
the
does
way
have
that Ant does.
No, he doesn't.
Statistically, he does, because when it comes to the amount of drives that he takes or blow bys, he's so good at blow buying any NBA player in the fucking world.
That's not the same
but
thing.
It's what he does after the blow by.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's not the same thing. People will see that and they're like, so he can also get by guys, right? That's not the same thing. He's incredibly fast. He does not have the same maturation as a slasher that Shai has. Like the footwork and the angles and ability to specifically get the defender in that spot and know how to make them foul you is not the same thing as being able to blow by a guy because you're faster and more athletic than them. That's an entirely different skill that does not translate to drawing fouls. Like people think like you can't be guarded, you're good, should equate to drawing free throws. It's been the same thing with Curry forever. Curry is not as good at getting guys on their hip and getting into a free throw motion like that. Steph fans forever have been complaining about his whistle and why it's bad.
Because he was for the longest time. I'm sorry, right? For the longest time, and you could see it specifically on off ball stuff. And there is a certain part to this where for every player in the NBA, stars, role players, bench warmers, if I call every foul, we are not going to play the game.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody's fouling on every single play. There's always some level of physicality that you can look at and say, that is not in the rules. You cannot do that. Right? And so like the refs are in a position where they do have to also manage the game and make sure that like
it's watchable.
Right? And that is watchable and that you're putting yourself in a position to where you can be consistent at least within that game. Mm-hmm. Right. So you can't, like, if you're letting people play, then you let people play. If you're not and you're being ticky-tack, people do adjust to that as the game goes on. Like that's something that is like very, very real with the foul drawing stuff. Yeah.
And even for Shai, like someone said, like your point, people would say everybody else gets played through it. He gets it at a higher rate is what they'd say. Mm-hmm. Shai gets fouled all the time too. Like he does not get every call in the same way other people don't. He gets more of them because he drives the most. He has the most attempts there, so he'll get the most amount of fouls. But in the same way that you see Ant play through fouls, there's 1,000 plays where Shai does the same thing and plays through a foul and doesn't get it. There's just a lot more of a sample size that you're going to see more and feel like in like some kind of psychological bias that he's getting a higher percentage. He's not. The whole Denver Nuggets series, they were harassing him. Christian Brown and Michael Porter Jr. were allowed to hand check him all the time, constantly. He is playing through the same amount of physicality as everybody else. He, like I said, is just that much better at drawing fouls and has perfected that skill set more. So he's going to get more despite that. But he's also playing through more physicality than he did in the regular season.
I'll agree to that. I also think another thing, and listen, my star, does he do it sometimes?
There's this egregious ass clip that you showed me this upstairs. You shouldn't have done that. Jalen Brunson literally took, I think it was Aaron Neesmith's hand, and he took he took Aaron Neesmith's hand and he slapped himself with it. Yeah. I've never seen that before, ever.
It is egregious. What I'll say is, and with Brunson, and part of what I think is happening with Shai is the degree to which you sell the call. Is also another thing that elevates the hysteria around foul calls, right? Every time you see Jalen Brunson drive, you see him, snap his neck back, and people are like, "Oh, like stop doing that! You're trying to bait for the foul." Shai, there were screenshots where as soon as somebody's hand was on him, he's making faces, right? His head is going one way. He's acting demonstrative.
So he's playing a game within
a
game.
You've seen it with Embiid before, where he's done it. You've seen it with Harden, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so selling the call is also something to like that. Even myself, I'm like, I don't necessarily like want to see that all the time, because there is a certain part, and this is a very fine line. And I think when we talk about it all the time, where you're like, foul baiting is a skill and you should use it. And it's walking on that line and saying like, yes, it's a skill, but also like, come on, man, just play the game.
Yeah.
That's
the key point.
That's the line where you are walking as a star when you are going for calls and doing
That's
stuff.
Precisely it. I do not give a shit if you don't like watching it. You're more power to you, to each their own. I'm not asking you to stan Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Yeah. I'm not even asking you to enjoy watching him. You can dislike watching him actively. Doesn't matter to me. Like, that's completely fair and valid. If you are of the opinion that you do not enjoy watching someone who sells calls, I get it. That's fine. Like, if that's your distinction, is he's a foul baiter that's not fun to watch, I have no argument for you. That's so subjective. That's perfectly reasonable. It's the people that seem to think that it's for no reason and like the league chose him to give him fouls, and they seem to think that, like I said in the beginning, this whole good whistle thing is simply whether the refs decide you get a foul or not, and it's not based on anything that's like having to do with the player and their specific skills. I just feel like you can hate him, but like understand why you hate him. You know what I mean?
You know what this whole conversation has told me? Mathematically, the United States of America is behind. This just doesn't make any sense, bro. If he goes to the rim the most out of everyone in the entire league outside of Jokic and Giannis, he's gonna get just as many calls, if not maybe even more, bro. That's all this tells me. And then another thing as well, that's just a funny caveat, going back to the foul baiting stuff and how you decide to fabricate that you've been fouled, or how you're just like, playing the game within the game and anticipating it. One of my favorite, I guess, motions is back in like maybe 2017, 2016. I think it started with Russell Westbrook. And then LeBron saw that, he stole that shit, and he got caught for it a couple of months ago. Is when they would just hold their face on the ground and just be like this the entire time. Russ started that shit, and LeBron, he carried that shit, and he still does it to this day. And he got exposed for it the other day when he was like this.
No, that was elite.
Doesn't have a lot of. He's not that egregious. He's not that egregious
on
to where
that
he's,
on that
he's being
drive.
embarrassing.
On that drive specifically, he did like make the face before, but also there's at least in game one, and. We're watching it together. Isaac kept pointing out, he's like, "Hi!" Like you can't even say anything because he's making the and one.
Yeah,
he's making the shot anyways. And so if that's going down, that's fine. I love Shai. I have no problem with him. I don't think that he is an unethical hooper, because even if you take away all the free throws, he's still averaging like 24, 25 points a game.
Yeah.
It's elite scoring.
That's the part where it's just hysteria, that people are mad about the aesthetics, because it's not logical at all to think that like either A, the team wins because his free throws, B, he's a scoring leader because his free throws, C, he's only good because his free throws. None of the outcomes make sense outside of I just don't like him, which more power to you, right? And the funny part to me as a Shai fan, as somebody who's watching this hysteria breakdown, is what did I hear in the regular season? None of that free throw grifting shit's going to work in the playoffs. He's going to collapse. They're not going to make the conference finals again because he's going to not be a good scorer because he can't make the free throws. He relies on that. Now we're here. Now it's, he's the devil. He's still getting these free throws. He's still tricking the refs. So first it wasn't going to happen. Now it's immoral. I don't know what the next evolution is when they win the title, but I'm assuming it's going to be like asterisk ring. He only got it because he's a foul baiter. Somehow they keep changing whatever the takeaway is on these fouls. And I love to see it.
I have something to admit. The stupid part of my brain actually enjoys a little bit of the conversation because it's fucking hilarious. Anytime, sometimes I'll be on Twitter and then someone will just be like, I just turned on the game, guess where Shai's at? And it's just fucking hilarious.
That's they did that during the All-Star game, and it was funny.
Yeah. And again, part of again, I say I've much more zen now to this stupid stuff. It doesn't bother me as much anymore. End of the day, part of sports is haters, and like people got to root against the people that some people support. So comes to the territory, you're one of the best players in the world. People don't like your style. It's fine, right? It doesn't actually matter. What I do think is whack is like Doris Burke being on ESPN and like talking about the foul merchant jokes and stuff. Like
so fucking hard.
That was so unfunny and just like adding fuel to the fire in a way that wasn't like even funny. So like it was just lame.
Yeah.
So that's where it becomes a little iffy, is whenever these things get like propagated to be like the actual narrative around a player, and in a way that like takes away some of the props they deserve. Still doesn't really matter in the day, but overall people are going to hate, and that's fine.
I love what Donovan said about a ton of the early 2000s players, literally D-Wade, Kobe, Shaq, T-Mac, whoever you want to mention, they were getting to the line and doing all these types of things. What we have been blessed with, but also like damned with at the same time, is just how overanalyzed and how overly exposed certain things of the game have came to be. Like back in the day, we wouldn't see or be able to like 10, 20 years ago, we wouldn't be able to, 15 years ago, we wouldn't be able to see we didn't have the ability to rewind games with our own free will. We could do that obviously, but it takes a couple more steps.
I would go 10 years ago, but I know your point. At a certain point, you couldn't see how the sausage was made, and there wasn't as many people talking about things this granularly and understanding these things at this level, and like having these hate trains develop because of that. There just wasn't the education there was back, especially like 2006, prime D-Wade. You want to go 20 years ago? People would hate him now if he played today. They just were ignorant.
Exactly. In 10,
If we had Twitter after 06, where you have this young star who got to the line a million times a game,
he'd be despised.
And then it came out afterwards that the ref was betting on the game. Oh my goodness. D-Wade would have no respect for the rest of his career.
Yep.
like we spent like 30 minutes last week talking about how the draft lottery was rigged. If it came out legitimately that a ref was gambling on games, that's something where it's like, yes, the guys from the 2000s completely protected.
Yeah.